in kind of that negative spiral of overthinking and, depression and whatever they're in, the first thing I would say is to go to gratitude, to try and find, see if you can list off 3, 5, 10 things to be grateful for, to step outside of that negativity a little bit and see what's around you and see what you're grateful for and really feel it, say thank you for each of those things. And then, of course, you still have your problem or whatever you're dealing with, and to look at it from a different perspective now, because it's good to, obviously you have to deal with that, right? But
Hi, Cait. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited, everyone. I have with me Cait Gossmann-Bond of Rewired for Joy, and I am so excited to be chatting with you today. Cait and I met on Instagram. She is at Rewired for Joy, and I loved all of her pictures, and I was so inspired with the photos of her with her horse, and it made me so curious as to who she was and what she was into, and I loved all her posts, and I definitely recommend you go check her out on Instagram, Rewired for Joy. But she's here today with us, and we're going to be chatting about mindset. And so first of all, I'd like to just say welcome to the show, Cait.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, it's such a pleasure to meet you and to hear your story and to hear the wonderful work that you're doing in the world. And I would just like to start with you just telling us a little bit about yourself, like where you live and what you do besides like taking care of your beautiful horses. Just share a little bit about yourself so we can kind of get to know you.
Sure. So I live in Ontario, Canada, and I do a lot of different things. My first business is working with horses. So I train horses, I do some equine massage therapy, and I also do equine assisted psychotherapy, which is therapy for people working with horses. And I also run Rewired for Joy, which is a coaching and mental health education business for helping people rewire their minds to follow their intuition, follow their purpose in life, and find that joy and fulfillment that they're looking for.
Wow, such a beautiful thing. So how did you get started working with horses?
I have kind of always been one of those people that was drawn to horses. So even when I was a little girl, it was like every birthday and every Christmas, I wanted horseback riding lessons as my present. And I just never grew out of that. I started working with all sorts of different kinds of horses and was always drawn to the ones that no one else really kind of wanted to work with, the ones that needed some training and some help. And yeah, that's how I got into the training side of it.
And how have the horses led you to what you're doing now, working with individuals?
They have taught me so much, which is funny because I always say, like, I'm a horse trainer, but the horses have taught me a lot more than I could ever teach them. So the thing with horses is the way they work, especially as prey animals, they are always present in the moment and completely aware of everything around them and all the energy that's going on around them and everything like that, and they're reacting to that. So when you're in the presence of a horse, they're picking up on everything you're giving off, whether you're meaning to or not. So I learned as I was working with horses that if I was having a bad day or something, they would react to me. And they really helped me become aware of my internal state and helped me to regulate that and rewire myself to be present and focus with them.
Wow. So they taught you how to live in the moment?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sure.
Isn't it amazing how the world and nature teaches us so much if we can just be aware of it and acknowledge the beautifulness of the creatures, like the horses and the animals and the trees and the butterflies and the birds, but also just how healing that they are to us.
Exactly. There's so much noise and pollution in our minds that's put in from society and the media and everything. And a lot of people aren't even aware of the fact that that doesn't have to be there. You can have a state of peace and quiet in your mind.
We actually do have a choice, right? We can turn some things off.
Absolutely. You are in charge of how your mind is programmed.
So So somewhat, right? I do believe that when we're young and we're children, we are programmed by society, by our parents, by school, by our peers. And I find it very fascinating when I was on your website that you're sharing that you realize the power of your mind when you were a young child. And I feel like that is such a powerful statement and such a powerful realization that so many people, even in their 20s and 30s and 40s, don't even realize the power of their mind, the power of their thoughts that keep them as a victim of abuse, as a victim of their own self-hatred, their inner critic. And so how do you help people that have been through difficult times, that are struggling with their own thoughts, the things that people have told them, the labels that were put on them, to, first of all, like they already feel it, they already live it. How do you help them to like overcome? What's like the first step to overcome, to get past that, to actually, I realize that finding joy is a process. It's a journey.
Absolutely.
You know, I always love how the word joy is like the first two letters and the last of journey, because it is a journey, isn't it? To find real inner joy.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So the people who are struggling with so much hatred or so much guilt, and they just feel like a victim, what's that first step that you ask them to do?
The first thing that you really have to do once you're kind of aware of this negativity that's in your mind is take a deep breath and to realize that it's okay to be exactly where you're at and that you can overcome it and that there's nothing wrong with you and you're not broken, and give yourself a little bit of compassion, give yourself a big hug, and realize that it's okay and you can move forward and you can work on this and know that it's something that you can learn to improve. And it's really helpful when you understand a little bit of the neurobiology behind it as well. You realize that there are these pathways in your brain and you actually can rewire them to have different thought patterns.
Can you explain what neurobiology is?
Sure. So in our brain, basically, there are all these different pathways that information travels along. And the more that a pathway gets used and you have that same reaction to something, that pathway gets worn in. So it will get used more and more often.
Okay.
And those are kind of like our thought patterns. So every time that we experience a stimulus, whether it's something that triggers an old memory of ours or, you know, looking in a mirror stimulates different thoughts for everyone, right? We always have a response to any of those stimulus. And a lot of people aren't really aware. They think that's just kind of what they're thinking, but you can actually, these patterns have been kind of programmed into your brain, and you have the power to create different pathways in your brain. So, for example, if we're looking in the mirror, if when you look in the mirror, your response to that stimulus is to kind of have this dialogue of negative self-talk about your appearance, and a lot of people have that. I mean, I think everyone struggles with their appearance at some point in their life, right?
Yes.
You can actually start to create a new pathway. So if you look in the mirror and you have all these things, I don't like this and this and this and this and this, you can stop and create a new thought for yourself. So I love the way I look today, or whatever it is. And at first, that pathway is going to be so tiny because you've thought the other thoughts 1,000 times. But if you keep consistent with that new pathway, it will get worn in and the old one will slowly start to fade away. And that's how you can create those new thought patterns. And eventually that new pathway will be your immediate reaction to that stimulus.
So it sounds like it's a habit. It's like just a bad habit because it's something we just do over and over. And we're subconsciously doing it. Like if we look in the mirror and we think, oh, look at this cellulite, I'm so fat. Like that is an example, right? That we need to recognize and say, okay, is this helping me or is this harming me to think this way, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's just something that's been programmed in your brain, or that your brain is doing to protect you from something that has happened before, or it's in there because of expectations that have been put on you by some outside force, something like that.
Powerful. Okay, so the first step is to become aware of it, and then I find that when you have a habit, it's a habit. It's something we do without thinking about it, right? So it is a challenge. So I know, working with people that want to see change in their self and then change in their life, it is a challenge, right? It's not easy. It's easy to hear, right? It sounds so simple, but it's not easy to do when you've been doing those things over and over for maybe years, right? And I feel like sometimes when when I was learning, it's hard to just take away without putting something in place to help, right? Like to replace the bad habit with a healthier thought.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't just get mad at yourself for having these negative thoughts, right? That's where that self-compassion kind of comes in. Okay. It's realizing it's there and witnessing it, but not judging yourself for having those thoughts. Okay. And then exactly like you said, replacing it with a positive affirmation, or replacing it for what you want your new belief to be.
I love that. So, for example, let's say that I have a really bad habit, which I did, of looking in the mirror and judging myself and criticizing myself and actually hating on myself. And so what would be a good example, instead of me looking at myself in that way, to replace those thoughts with, like, instead of feeling like I feel so fat, instead feel like I'm so proud of myself because I went take a walk today. Like, is that a good example?
Yeah, absolutely. Finding things that you can be proud of yourself is really, really important. And, all those little things that you're doing that are supporting the positive beliefs that you want to have. And also realizing that that negative thought is not you, and that's not the truth that has been put there by society or by someone else or by the media. And it's just been put into your brain so many times that it's become that program, and that it's just kind of like your inner critic talking.
Yes.
It's not the truth. And you can actually, when that thought comes up, so first thing is realizing that's not true. You can even, sometimes it helps to say it out loud, right? So if you have those bad thoughts, be like, no, that's not true. And then saying your positive affirmation.
What if we believe that it's true?
And that's the thing, right? It's in your mind. So it feels true. And a lot of the time, you're not going to say, hey, I love how I look once or 10 times or 50 times and believe it if you've been thinking you hate the way you look for your whole life.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to really be consistent at putting that new affirmation in your mind and creating that new pathway. And it's okay if you don't feel that you completely believe it at first, as long as you keep saying it and saying it. And you can even laugh at yourself, because sometimes it feels silly to be like, I love the way I look 10 times to yourself in the mirror, and just laugh it off. That's okay.
And when we're growing up, a lot of times we're raised to feel ashamed if we are loving on ourselves. And I feel like that's where we have learned to accept that we just are so critical of ourselves, even as far as getting a compliment. If someone says, oh, I love your hair, and you go, oh, I didn't even wash it today. Like, we just deflect it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so it's like, because if we say, oh, thank you, they're like, oh, you're so conceited. And so that, I feel, is such a stumbling block for people, is that word conceited. When you're just trying to be confident versus conceited, or like, oh, she loves herself so much, she thinks she's all that. And I feel like that is where women stay stuck, because of those feelings, and because that's what society has told her for so long.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of it comes out of that we are programmed to compare ourselves constantly. So if you take that compliment people think that you're saying that you're better than someone else.
Yeah.
Which is that's not true confidence at all. Confidence is loving yourself and not caring what other people think of you, not thinking you're better than anyone else, but just thinking that you're amazing and everyone else can be amazing too. And we're all unique. You can't even compare people because we're all so different and fantastic in our own ways.
I love that. I love that. And I was brought up in a totally different generation than you. And I can see the changes that are taking place in society. And yes, I know that social media can be a bad thing, and it's comparison is it kills joy, right? We've learned that comparison kills our inner joy. And so even though the internet allows us to compare ourselves, it also is a platform where I see women, especially younger generations such as yourself, speaking more positive about themselves and learning how to take care of themselves and love themselves, which is something that I was raised in the 70s and the 80s, had children in the 90s. So my generation, it was not so easy to just accept ourselves, love ourselves. So I really feel like there's so much change that's taken place. And I do want to say I'm thankful for the internet. That's how I met you. That's how you're able to help other women who are stuck. Yeah, I want to say, who are just not feeling joy. And I mean, maybe they're in a really, really difficult time right now and it feels impossible to feel that joy. Maybe they've just been diagnosed with something that they don't know what their future's looking like. Or maybe they have a child that, is fighting for her life right now. How do those people still find joy in the midst of that pain?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So it's not about like shoving all the things you're feeling away, right? We're not going to try and suppress those emotions or just like ignore the difficult things that are going on in your life at all, right? Because that's not healthy.
Right. So thank you for saying that. Yeah, because sometimes that is our first response, right? It's to just numb it or push it down. Not right now. Not right now. I just can't deal right now. I can't deal with that. So thank you for saying that.
So if someone is really stuck in kind of that negative spiral of overthinking and, depression and whatever they're in, the first thing I would say is to go to gratitude, to try and find, see if you can list off 3, 5, 10 things to be grateful for, to step outside of that negativity a little bit and see what's around you and see what you're grateful for and really feel it, say thank you for each of those things. And then, of course, you still have your problem or whatever you're dealing with, and to look at it from a different perspective now, because it's good to, obviously you have to deal with that, right? Yeah. But you don't have to worry about it so much. So maybe it's something that you're not sure how the outcome is going to turn out. And even though you're living in it right now, you can be grateful for what you have, and you can find that peace and joy with what you have right now rather than worrying about the future. Yeah. So it's a lot of living in the moment. And if you know that you're doing what you can for that situation, finding that peace about it.
Beautiful. Right. That is so good, because I know in the midst of our storms, it's very difficult to see anything good when we feel so much pain and so much darkness. But I think just to realize that, wow, I have a roof over my head, I have the sun shining on me, I have my pet, those little, maybe those, and I remember at times when I didn't want to live anymore, it was those little things, like not even little things, but it was like the people in my life. And, we all have someone in our life, hopefully, and those who don't, and if they're listening right now or watching this, I hope that they will be able to get some hope from this, because that is ultimately my goal for this podcast. I know it's your goal for the work that you do, is to inspire hope in people.
Absolutely.
In order to instill truth into them and to replace the lies and the stories and the false beliefs and to take off those labels. And something that I recently heard that I really love, that I feel ties into this, is changing our language. So instead of looking at something as a problem, look at it as an opportunity or a challenge. And so do you also share about changing not only our thoughts, our mindset, but also the language that we use and the words that we choose?
Yeah, of course. And those words that you say, your brain is taking that in, right?
Yeah,
so
programming.
If you, instead of saying, this is so difficult right now, I don't know what to do, and just, you can say, what can I learn from this? Or what is this trying to teach me?
Okay.
And that really gives you a different perspective. Again, that kind of steps you outside of the situation, gives you a different perspective to look at it and be like, okay, so when I get through this, having that belief that you're going to get through it, right? How am I going to be stronger? What am I going to have learned from this? How am I going to grow from this?
Yes.
And having that kind of growth mindset really makes a difference for sure.
So changing the questions, and instead of saying, why me? Why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? Instead, we can look at it as, this is happening for me for a reason. And let me see if I can find the reason for the season.
Yes, and I am a firm believer that everyone is exactly where they are supposed to be. So if you don't understand why something is happening, it is happening to teach you something so that maybe you can grow from it and have what you really desire, or it's teaching you something so that you can help other people down the line. But no matter what you're going through, you are exactly where you are supposed to be.
It's true. And we can either fight it or we can surrender and learn from it and go with the flow of the lessons that we're trying to learn in life. Or we can put ourselves, like I did for many, many years, because I didn't know any different. I wasn't aware. I just wasn't aware, I guess, and I allowed myself to remain as a victim. And, when you're a victim, everything's happening to you, everything's out of your control, it's everyone else's fault. Here's the problem with it. When you remain a victim, you cannot do anything about it because you won't allow yourself to do anything about it. Right?
Right. Because you've created that narrative that for yourself that you are a victim of all these things. And that all these things are, it's out of control. Well, what you can do is look at yourself. What can you control? You can't control your circumstances maybe, but you can control your actions and you can control your attitude and you can, control the thoughts that you're putting into your head. When you start to become aware of them, you can start to be in control of that more and more, and focusing on what you can control in every situation, then what do you have to worry about?
It's so beautiful. Yeah, so true. And also, do you find that putting affirmations like sticky notes or screensavers, having words of affirmation and the positive words that we want to rewire our brain with, do you find that also helps people? Yes, absolutely. Especially when you're first starting to do this, because like you said, it's really hard to be aware of that all the time because it's just kind of going through your head all the time. So putting things on your wall, put Post-it notes on your mirror for, the positive affirmations you want about your appearance. Set the title for your alarm to be, today is going to be an amazing day, or something like that. There's even a lot, I'm sure if you look it up, there's a lot of email subscriptions or things that will even text you positive affirmations every day, just so that you're putting more and more of that into your mind. So how about when people say, well, I hear you and that sounds great and all, but it just sounds so fake. I just don't want to be fake because I'm not really happy. Well, you're either going to put the energy into being unhappy, or you can put the energy into creating the mindset and the life that you want. And it's not easy, right? You're not going to put a couple inspirational quotes on your walls and then you're going to be this lovely ray of sunshine. It's a lot of work, right? It takes a lot of work, and you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days, and that's okay. But you're either going to put the work into staying exactly where you are, or possibly, getting worse, or you put the work into moving forward and moving towards what you want. Yeah, and so that is so true, because also it's really hard, and especially if we're not in a good place mentally, spiritually, physically, we don't feel like doing these things. And I feel like I'm so grateful for the internet now, because anybody can find anyone that they resonate with, that they click with, that they just are drawn to help them. And, I feel like it's not a sign of weakness to get help. I feel like it is a sign of strength. You showing yourself that I care about you enough to want to get better, that we're going to get help. We're going to find someone to lead us, to coach us through, because we all need each other. We were not sent here to do it all on our own. It's like, oh, I got this, I don't need anybody else. That's a lie. That's so much of a lie. And I feel like that's what keeps people stuck also, and they don't receive healing because they feel like they have to do it on their own. They don't want to burden anyone else. But, you know, you're out here, you're doing this work to help other people, right? To help people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're right. It's definitely difficult to reach out and ask for help, or to know who to ask for help and feel like that's an okay thing to do. And I'm glad the narrative around that is starting to change a little bit, with so many people being more open about that they're going to therapy and getting help with all this stuff, right? Yeah. And there is nothing wrong with learning from someone who has maybe learned different things than you. Doesn't mean they're better than you, or that, you know, again, you don't have to compare yourself to them, right? There's no comparison there, but they have maybe some experience or some knowledge that can help you and guide you towards what you want.
Absolutely, because, you know, I see women who are having anxiety or they having depression, and, you know, so many feel ashamed. And I mean, that is a huge stigma that I do a lot of work around because of abortion. Many women hide it. They're ashamed of it. And that feeling that shame and feeling that aloneness prevents them from reaching out, because they're already ashamed and they already feel like people are going to judge them because they're feeling judged as it is. So I wanted to bring it out that we are all learning and growing. We should be till the day that we leave this earth. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean something's wrong. You know, just because, like, I remember it used to be kind of a taboo thing, like, oh, you're going to counseling, what's wrong? You know, like marriage counseling. Mm-hmm. So many marriages would be saved if people didn't have that feeling, that judgment, that perspective. And you're right, it is changing. And I'm so grateful for that, because I feel like there are so many women, so many people on this earth, and they're hurting more and more and more. And we need more and more and more healers and people who are going to lead others out of the darkness into the light, mm-hmm. out of the despair into joy again. And so how can we get them back on track, you know, to take them from out of their darkness into getting on a path of rewiring their brain, rewiring their thoughts in order to feel joy again after pain?
Yeah, well, I mean, anyone that's listening to this or that has been looking into this kind of thing at all, or considered working with a coach, you're already on the right step, right? Realizing that this is something that you want to do and that you're starting to put this time into yourself to learn these things is huge. And that's amazing that you're willing to put that investment in yourself and your life to have the joy that you want and that you deserve. And so in order to get out of that darkness and whatnot, becoming aware of it and wanting to change and being willing to put the work in is definitely the first step. And then finding someone, if they can, like yourself or myself, that they resonate with and that can guide them to their joy.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like I just wanted to bring awareness to that I feel like people who maybe listen to podcasts but aren't really involved online, they don't really know that they don't know what's out there. And it's just like a treasure chest of wealth, mm-hmm. information, even like free stuff. It's like you can do,
there's so much, yeah. Isn't
it even you have a free meditation, you have a free instant mindset shift that it's free, you know, so anyone
you can just go download it.
Yeah, right now, you know, and I love that. I love it because there's times over the years that people reached out to me for help, and, you know, maybe someone who was diagnosed with cancer and she was on her deathbed, and so she needed inspiration. And I love that they can now put in some earbuds and get instant inspiration, instant hope, and they can even receive healing just by reaching out and finding a support group, because we're all together in this. None of us are alone. None of us are broken. We are all just growing, and we're healing, and, we're going to continue to go through hard stuff in life. And, it's all about that. It's all about healing and getting better and getting healthier. So turning those negative thoughts into healthier thoughts. And so,
and there are so many resources out there to help people do that.
I love that. And so do you also have like a program that you coach women? Do you is men included, or is your program for women?
Yeah, everybody. So I'm an intuitive coach. So I help people to become aware of those negative thoughts, to silence that inner critic and change those inner thoughts so that they are listening to their authentic self, and they can follow their intuition and create the life they were born to live. And I actually offer a 30-minute free coaching consultation as well. So if anyone's interested in that, there is no commitment. We can just talk for 30 minutes and see if we're a good fit for coaching.
Beautiful. So that is so awesome. I mean, there's no excuses then, right? There are no excuses to hinder the healing. If they can reach out to you and get on the phone with you and have a free chat, that's huge. That is just valuable. And I thank you for doing that and sharing that with the world, because, people who are hurting, it's that first step is the hardest step to ask for help. I know that.
Absolutely.
And, to be able to, my whole vision for this podcast was to introduce people who are doing work from their heart. I call them soul entrepreneurs, such as yourself, who are drawn to create things from your heart, and that are life-changing for other people because of what you yourself have experienced. We have gifts, and it's selfish for us to keep them to ourselves and not share our gifts with other people, especially if we can help heal other people. So thank you for what you're doing. I just think you're a beautiful soul, and I just was drawn to you, and I just feel like you're such a beautiful healer in this world, and we need so many, because I do hear people say, there's so many out there, there's so many coaches, so many healers. No, there are not enough. There are billions of people, and almost all of them are hurting in some manner. We learn how to deal and cope with life the best that we can. But when you know better, you do better. And so my hope is that anyone who's listened today, they now know that I don't have to stay this way. I can actually rewire my thoughts, retrain my brain to say different words. That, I hope, is so enlightening to people, and that they will then make that first call and reach out to you, or go to your website, rewiredforjoy.com, to schedule that free call or to join your program and set themselves free and learn how to live a life of joy, true joy, from the inside. And so you say you're an intuitive coach. What does intuitive mean?
So intuitive basically just means that I teach you to follow your intuition. So intuition I view as the voice of your authentic self. So not that inner critic or all those noisy voices that have been put in by society and other people. It's your true voice from your higher self, from your soul, from who you really are. And if you're following that intuition, that's where the joy is. It's coming from within you, and that's living your purpose if you are following that. So that's what that really means.
Beautiful. And I just love what you're doing. And I really, really appreciate the work that you're doing in the world. We need so many people like you who are doing this work to help
thank you.
Be set free. And I feel like, just listening to you and watching you, and I feel like, wow, you're going to be an amazing mom, amazing mother one day, if that's your
thank you.
life path, because you can help train your children to have a healthy mindset and a healthy self-esteem, because out in the world, it's very hard to get that. So,
yeah, for sure.
Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I guess to anyone who is kind of, maybe this is their first time hearing about this kind of stuff, that rewiring your mind and whatnot, of course you can reach out to me and I'm happy to talk to you, but I'd encourage you just to try it. And if you don't want to try it with some big thing in your life, try it with some little negative beliefs that you have, and just keep putting those positive words in, and just be aware of it and be kind to yourself about it and do all the things we were talking about. And when you see it start to change, that first time that positive thought comes up without you intentionally doing it, it's crazy, the feeling, and you realize that you can really do this and you can do that for your entire life. It's pretty amazing. So I just encourage anyone, there's no harm in just trying it. So just take a little bit of action and just give it a try.
Yeah, trying it might surprise you, because it took, and it's not an overnight thing. And, I tell people all the time, any type of work like this, it didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to change overnight. You have to have patience. You have to have that willingness. You have to want, like you said in the beginning, you have to, first you're aware, but you have to have that want, that strong desire to want to change, because they can't change just by listening to you or listening to me. Like, you have to want to change. And until I was ready, didn't matter what anyone said. And that's the thing about it too. Everyone's on their own path, their own journey, and the timing's going to be just right. Where they're like, oh, now's the time. I can't. And sometimes it takes us to be at the bottom, right? It's just on the ground saying, I don't know what else to do. I need help, before we actually reach out for help. So I really hope that people don't wait that long, because I can tell you from experience, that is not the best way to do it. It's harder. But the more that you do it, it becomes a habit. It actually becomes a good thing. And then it's almost like you are retraining your brain and your subconscious, and then you realize, like, oh, those negative thoughts, it's not even there anymore. Because I used to call myself names like, oh, such an idiot, I'm so stupid. Now when I hear someone saying that, it's like, oh, don't say that. I cringe, because I know how powerful that can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a negative way. But how powerful is it to believe that, no, I made a mistake. I am not the decisions that I made. And I feel like so many women, our worth is tied into that. It's tied into the labels. It's tied into those judgments that we've made about ourselves. But no, we are not the decisions that we made. We are created as beautiful individuals in this world on a journey. And we are to live with true joy. And so I really am so happy that I met you. And I have a few other little questions I just wanted to ask, unless you want to add anything else. I just had a fun question that I wanted to ask you. So
go ahead.
What is a book that you're treasuring right now?
Oh, that is a good question. I just started reading Mel Robbins' The 5-Second Rule, which is all about taking action. So about counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just doing it. So, if you're hesitating with trying this stuff, you can try that. That's one I've just started, and it's been really good so far.
Awesome. What's your biggest takeaway from her book so far?
Just about that, just doing it, right? You can come up with all these ideas, why not to, and you're tired and you're this and you're that. And just, if it's something that you want, then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just go and do it.
I've been practicing that because I was thinking about, like, there's times where we're always multitasking, and I was like doing a chore, and I think I really need to go text this friend of mine. She's been on my heart and my mind, and if I don't, if I wait, it's going to go away, or I'm going to get sidetracked. I'm going to start doing something else. So I love her book for that reason, because it makes me just remember, stop right now, take a minute, go text my friend. And a lot of times that friend is in need, and she really needed that, so I love
and that's a lot of with your intuition too, right? Telling you to do that. And when you become aware of that and you just start to follow it and trust it, it's amazing. Like you were saying, like that friend that needed you, and you just knew to go text them.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love this, and I'm so happy that I met you, and I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you.
I definitely want to have you back again next year, and see what you're doing. I know as entrepreneurs, we're creative, and we're always creating new things. And
I think we could talk forever. We could make 10 episodes.
Yes, I love it, and we will. And so, I'm looking forward to collaborating with you and doing more videos also. So, you have a YouTube channel. If someone wants to go check out your videos, what's your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I do. It's Rewired for Joy. So everything is kind of under that name. If you go to the website to rewiredforjoy.com, that will link you to the YouTube channel and all my free resources, and you can get to everything from there and booking a consultation if you're interested in coaching as well.
How awesome. No excuses then, right? They can just go to
Nope.
rewiredforjoy.com, one-stop shop. You can get anything you need there. You have your free meditation there, your free mindset shift. You just have it all there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Little package for everybody. So thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise, your experience, your knowledge. I'm just so inspired by you every single day. I'm so happy I met you. I'm so happy to introduce you to the listeners at Life is a Treasure podcast. And looking forward to having you back again next year.
Well, thank you so much. I love chatting to you, and I'm so glad that you reached out to me so that we could connect and we could do this.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to Life is a Treasure podcast. As we begin to share our secret stories, others find the courage to start sharing theirs. And this is how the healing begins. So please help us by subscribing, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. And make sure to tag me on Instagram at Michelle Marie with 2 E's, Durand, DURAND, with hashtag Life is a Treasure podcast for a chance to get a shout out on the show. Also visit lifeisatreasure.com for all resources mentioned and freebies. And don't forget, come join us and continue the conversations in our free Facebook group, Life is a Treasure podcast. The link will be in the show notes. You can also find my social media links on the website, lifeisatreasure.com. Again, thank you so much for listening. Until next week, peace, love, and joy.